Welcome back. I'm Richard Hosnow. I'm your host of the Wisdom Inspired Life podcast and this Wisdom Inspired Life YouTube channel. As you know, I'm on a mission. I am on a mission. And that mission is to inspire people, not just inform or educate, but to inspire people like you. Worldwide, the Wisdom Inspired Life podcast is already doing that with listeners in over 70 countries. To be highly caring and compassionate. And the last two episodes, Servant Leadership and Listen to Learn, are the best two things, easy things that you can do immediately to be more caring and compassionate with the people that you encounter in the world. They go together hand in glove. The right question, how can I help you? How you deal with their response, listen and learn. Okay? When you do that, you're going to achieve dramatically higher levels of personal happiness, more than if you just serve your own selfish needs. So, with that said, the next step in this journey deals with spirituality. Why? Well, it's of critical importance to achieving the mission. Why? Because spirituality is the access point and path to wisdom. And after all, this is about a wisdom and spirit life. Wisdom is that powerful guide and inspiration to becoming more caring and compassionate. On the right side there, you see a quote, wisdom is the knowledge of God. I might say wisdom is the knowing of God. And a life lived for God. One of my affirmations is, every day I act to please God. I do what God wants me to do the way God wants me to do it. Okay? So, before getting into the subject of spirituality, which sometimes can be a sensitive subject, I want to deal with these upfront sort of warning labels or whatever they are. Okay? In this episode, I'm not going to be recommending a path to you. Only you can know that. I'm sharing information from the few spiritual paths that I have personal experience with. If that works for you, fine. If not, please go find and explore other paths that work for you. So what do I mean by spirituality? We've got the word spirituality and religion and things like that. I'm using spirituality in the big, what I call a big umbrella definition. It encompasses religion, wisdom traditions, and broad spirituality. So that's the meaning of spirituality. So, in the course of my experience and journey, spiritual journey, I've encountered teachers in a wide range of levels and realized that they exist at different levels. And I want to share those with you. This is my experience, but it's, I think, confirmed by others who view it in a very similar way. There are teachers who are God-realized and enlightened teachers, have achieved self-realization, those sort of terms. These are the highest, most evolved people that occasionally come onto planet Earth to help us lowly humans out of the holes we've dug ourselves into and to progress further along the spiritual journey by being there to give us messages and helping hand. There are people like Krishna, Paramahansa Yogananda, who I'll talk about more, Buddha, Jesus, Babaji, who's still with us, Patanjali from a few thousand years BC, and currently the Dalai Lama, God-realized enlightened beings on Earth to help us humans. Right below that, in terms of spiritual growth and capability, is what I call advanced wisdom teachers. In my experience, they are Buddhist Rinpoches, talk a little bit more about that, and Christian saints. Right below that are people who have, teachers who have access to high astral sources. Talk more about that. Sanya Rome's Jose Stevens. And then there's a very large group of preachers, pastors, priests, ministers, and so forth from various religions. So I'm going to talk briefly about each of these from my experience to help you understand a little bit better what I'm talking about in these. When it comes to God-realized and enlightened sources, here's my personal experience. I'm a big fan on many levels of the Dalai Lama. a compassionate, caring being, if there ever was. In Buddhism, at the heart of Buddhism is, I think, compassion. He's written many books, there's many videos. The Art of Happiness, I think, is probably his best-selling book. His co-author, I happen to know, and that'll be an interesting story if we ever get together and have a glass of wine. The other one is the Christian Bible, and the best, and this may sound a little bit new to you, but the absolutely most enlightening version of the Bible actually comes from a book written by Paramahansa Yogananda called The Second Coming of Christ. This has brought the Christian Bible to life as a vibrant, strong book of wisdom. Because left to its own devices, the Christian Bible is not the easiest read and is not the easiest to understand. And because Paramahansa Yogananda is a God-realized being, he understood what Jesus was talking about. And again, the Wisdom Inspired Life podcast will introduce you to that. How to Know God is one of several books on Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. Very concise, very, very powerful insights. And then also the Bhagavad Gita, maybe viewed as the Hindu Bible, but it is, in my experience, the greatest single source of wisdom on the planet today. It's a book that I read in small doses every single day, and when I get to the end of reading it, I go back and start it over again, and I'm in my fourth or fifth reading through it. It is that powerful and influential for me, okay? And again, it's Paramahansa Yogananda's great insights and illumination on what the writers of the Bhagavad Gita meant. So these are God-realized, enlightened sources. At the heart of that is my personal beloved guru, Paramahansa Yogananda, founder of the SelfRealization Fellowship, which is a wonderful resource of books, teachings, and videos, and maybe at the core, in many ways, a multi-year series of week-by-week lessons to help you progress along your spiritual journey at a very efficient cost, I should say. And this has been my rock. Paramahansa Yogananda passed in 1952, but has left us with the greatest single resource that I know of on planet Earth that's easily accessible to all. His most popular book is The Autobiography of a Yogi. Even though he passed in 1952, on Amazon it's been the best-selling, or one of the best-selling spiritual books every single year. And in a small way, and I've mentioned this before, Steve Jobs, when he passed, he had only one book on his iPad, Autobiography of a Yogi, which he read every single year from his college years on. So, very powerful book if you want to be introduced to who Paramahansa Yogananda is. Okay. At the next level, we have my experience with advanced wisdom teachers. And there you see the picture of Sogyal Rinpoche. I had the great pleasure and honor of going 4 years in a row to a great spiritual teaching place called Astral, just south of Big Sur, right on the Pacific Ocean, one of the most inspiring physical locations and places that you can possibly go to for learning. And through my experience in attending the teachings with Sogyal Rinpoche, this was fairly early in my spiritual journey, I came away from that experience in just awe and wonder. I said to myself, if this, referring to Sogyal Rinpoche, is what a human can be, then I am inspired to follow in that path, even though he was probably a million steps or miles ahead of me. His example, his compassion, his wisdom, and his joy redefined for me what a human could be. And he's had a tremendously great best-selling book, The Tibetan Book of Living and Dying. You can also hear a lot of excerpts from Sogyal Rinpoche and video transcripts on the Wisdom Inspired Life podcast, and you can go onto YouTube and see many more videos that he has. Just a great series of teachings. He passed a couple of years ago, but nonetheless his inspiration lives on. Then we drop to the level of experience with those who have access to high astral sources. The astral plane may sound new to many of you, and it probably is, but it is the plane that when we leave this physical body behind that we go to, and from which we then return to the human form. You can learn a lot more about the astral plane on the Wisdom Inspired Life podcast. Lots of information there about it. The very first book that grabbed my attention and inspired me on my spiritual journey was a book called Living with Joy by Sunny A. Roman, which is a channeled book, namely channeled from a high astral source. And this book was so stunningly aspirational that, and it was not an audiobook available back at that time, I created an audiobook. I created a cassette of each chapter, and I would drive to work and drive back from work while I was working at Procter & Gamble, listening to that. This book lifted me up and inspired me. So it had great influence, great wisdom in it. I also point out Jose Stevens is also a similar source, but in a different way, very powerful way. The Power Path is where he teaches from. And I could say a lot about him, but if you're interested in somebody who can really understand you, people around you, Jose Stevens is the person to be able to talk to. The last level that I'm going to talk about is the pastor, minister sort of level. And a lot of people can get nourishment from this level in great, great ways. There's great variability in the quality of teaching and wisdom understanding that comes at this particular level. Most of the people in their positions got there through academic knowledge of spirituality, not necessarily personal experience of it, which is critical. Not a whole lot of people at that level have significant development of higher levels of consciousness. We as humans are I'm what I call waking consciousness. I'm aware I have a subconscious, but as we progress along the spiritual journey in the later stages, there are three higher levels of superconsciousness, Christ consciousness, and ultimately achieving cosmic consciousness, which is achieving enlightenment. Most of the people at this level of teaching don't have a lot of development in that particular regard. At the same time, that doesn't mean that they can't be extremely helpful to you in your spiritual journey. Just understand what it is. There's an unfortunate aspect of this, and that is that a lot of ego gets into this with people, the teachers at this level. Not unusual to hear them say, my religion or my path is better than yours. And you have, in Mohammedanism and Muslims fighting between themselves, Christians fighting among themselves. It's just, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. And there can also be polarizing social and political positions that are just absolutely mind-boggling to me. In the United States, the fact that the evangelical world of teachers could rally around a Donald Trump whose morals, whose behavior are so far a departure from what Jesus taught, and my understanding how that fits is just a bewildering association. So again, I don't want to overemphasize the challenges here, but I do want to alert you to them. And again, there are some very special teachers at this level that can really be inspirational and help to many, many people. And for that, we are very thankful. Okay, so how do you choose your path that's best for you? Well, first word is explore. I've given you some stimulus here. There's lots of other stimulus available out there for you. Here's what I strongly suggest. Explore, listen, read, and look for those sources that you connect with. Namely, you feel that you really understand them. Here's what I realized relative to connection. I realized that words have power. Okay? There were some words that the energy of those words connected strongly with me. And I remember a very, very popular book on spirituality that I read. And at the end of it, I went, it's in English, so I understood the language, but I felt no connection to the energy and words that the author was using. That's no criticism of the author. It's just, it didn't connect with me. In other books like Living with Joy, boy, strong, strong connection. When you feel that connection, dive in, go deeper, okay? Commit to it. Get the nourishment and learning that you can from it. And as you grow, you'll be open to new resources along the way. That's been my journey to the ultimately that I got to the level that Paramahansa Yogananda is my beloved guru. As he says, you can have many teachers, but only one guru. And I still have a number of teachers, although that narrows a bit as I've gone on with life. So if you want to choose a resource that's best for you, consider doing this. Okay? As you know, you can learn more about all this at mywisdominspiredlife.com, the podcast, learn about my wisdom-related books, which there are two of them, one of kind of like my autobiography, My Wisdom Inspired Life, A Provocative True Story, and Ultimate Happiness. You can see there a bio, and if you want to know more, go on to LinkedIn. Look, this mission is important to me. I'm exceedingly grateful for your time listening to this. Hopefully this benefits you. The mission of becoming more caring and compassionate to deal with the broader and the individual challenges and needs that we have on this planet right now is something that all of us can do. All of us can put an oar in the water to help make this happen. So, thank you very much again for listening. I look forward to continuing this journey with you and look forward to connecting with you next time. Again, thank you.